Story 1. Play a Keno lottery. Get the results, then rewind time. Easy money unless the entire thing was rigged after all. Story 2. I think everyone is confused because of how this is worded. Is it, have the ability to move forward and backward 10 minutes? Or, have full control of time for 10 minutes and the ability to go forward and backward any amount of time? Story 3. 10 minutes. What 10 minutes? In this context, I do not see how those 10 minutes would have any relevance, or do I not understand the question? Story 4. Can I only rewind 10 minutes, and only once in my life? Or do I have control of time travel for 10 minutes but only once in my life? If it is the former, I will probably hit a roulette table as well and get enough cash to take care of my mother. If it is the latter, I will go back to 2021 and tell myself that my soulmate is misdiagnosed with ischia, when it is aggressive rectal cancer. Story 5. Fast forward until humanity has developed into a utopian society and lives a genuinely comfortable and happy life. Story 6. I am tempted to rewind to my early childhood, assuming I get to keep my memories, but realistically, I would just save them in case something horrifying happens. If I cannot do that, then I am just taking last week's lottery. Story 7. I check the Euro jackpot lottery numbers. Win big. Retire. Move to the Maldives and live happily ever after. Story 8. I would go back 5 years. I want to live through that wonderful time in my life again. I would enjoy traveling and relive the amazing moments with an acquaintance. Story 9. This might be cringe, but slow down time or even freeze it on June 8th or September 25th, 2024, when I was having dinner. The former was the first time a former coworker and I had hung out and really talked since I left the company years ago. It was also the night I realized I still had a massive crush on her. The latter was her birthday and I ended up taking her out for dinner, just the two of us, which was her idea. This was ultimately the last time we hung out in person, though we texted nearly every day for a while longer. While things ended on bad terms between us, and I am far past wanting to reconcile and make up, I would like to go back. Not to change things, but because, as cliché as it is to say, it was the first time in my life I felt like an actual person instead of a placeholder until something better came along. Every heartbreak, romantic or otherwise, finally felt worth it, and I want to appreciate the moments a little bit more, knowing now that the time we had in each other's lives was only supposed to be so limited. Story 10. How long does it take to rewind and fast forward? Could I, within 3 minutes, go to the distant future to borrow money from myself, then within 3 minutes go back to 2009 to buy an obscene amount of Bitcoin, then within 3 minutes travel back to the present so as not to be stranded in 2009? Story 11. Pausing time and becoming the richest man on earth is an incredibly hard thing to do illegally, but I would figure it out. Story 12. Rewind to June 13th and give the biggest hug to my late wife. Tell her how much I love her and only her. Rest in peace, love. You have been through enough. Story 13. Tell my parents something I was always scared to. If they react positively, we proceed. If not, we go back in time. Story 14. For me personally, I would rewind to the time when my father was still alive and tell him that I am getting my life together, he is nothing to worry about, and that I have been clean for 6 months. Story 15. Wait, can I only change 10 minutes of time? Or can I change time however I want for 10 minutes? Like, I can go back to the 1800s, but if I don't return to the present within 10 minutes, I'm stuck? Story 16. I am going to assume I keep my memories. I will check the lottery numbers from the current day, write them on a piece of paper, and keep them safe. Back in early 2021, I am still around a person who meant a lot to me. I am not making the mistakes I made later on. Hopefully, this means we stay together. We win the lottery in 2025. Story 17. Who here is choosing pause? If you are only allowed to use the time feature once, you will get stuck forever. Story 18. But the real question is, when I control time, is 10 minutes the total duration I can affect? Or do I have 10 minutes to use the power however I want within any time frame? Story 19. You wait until the Powerball jackpot exceeds $1 billion. Then you go back in time and pick the winning numbers. The original poster says you can gain control of time for 10 minutes, not just go back 10 minutes. You essentially have a time machine for 10 minutes and can go anywhere you want. Story 20. Use your 10-minute rewind to warn yourself not to use the power. Now future you has it again. Loop this choice with slight variations. Result. You become the only constant across infinite branches. Every other version of you gets stuck. You become a multiversal node. Story 21. I would pause and then proceed to rob a bank. I would find a place to stash the money and slowly launder or spend it. Story 22. Spend 10 minutes trying to figure out the instructions. I do not understand. Can I only press each of these options once? Or can I only pick one of these options and it lasts for 10 minutes? This is a huge decision to not be fully clear about. Story 23. The lottery answers are all good, but I think I would rewind to the day my aunt took her own life. I would tell her to put the gun down, and I would be on my way to help her. She made a split-second decision to permanently solve her temporary problems. It devastated my whole family, including me. Story 24. Go to the future and see how to set yourself and your family up for generations. You cannot change the past, but you can change the future. Story 25. I rewind back to May and tell my sister-in-law that if she goes on that bike ride, she is going to get hurt. Or I could just let the air out of the kid's tires who might hit her. A 5-second delay from either of them, and the kid would have hit a tree instead of her. Then his parents would be suffering the consequences for his negligence, instead of people who do not deserve it. Story 26. Take photographs of dinosaurs. Yes, it is risky. I might end up in an area with no active animals. Plus, I would need to be in a clean bubble to avoid bringing the common cold back in time. But if people witnessed me using this power and I took pictures, I could at least irrefutably disprove young Earth creationism, hopefully. Story 27. My plan is to gather a couple $1 million, which will take a while. I can sell the house, cash out my retirement accounts, and even take out some loans. Then I will deposit the money with a major Las Vegas sportsbook. I will wait for a National Football League game where the losing team scores a last-minute touchdown to win. Once it happens, I will rewind 10 minutes and place all of my money on that specific player to score a touchdown and on the correct game winner. I could probably get at least 50-1 odds with a bet like that. Story 28. Deposit all savings to brokerage. Find a significant surprise on a company's earnings at 4:01 p.m. Go back 10 minutes and buy out-of-the-money weekly options accordingly. Story 29. I would go back to the day before Liberation Day, play the stock market, and set myself up for life. Story 30. 10 minutes is enough to make millions. You just need to perfectly time 1 to 2 trades. With perfect information, it is fully possible. Story 31. You say I can control it for 10 minutes, but I now control time. So 10 minutes is now a very long time. Story 32. I would slow down time just long enough for your originality to catch up and perhaps let you think of a better question than this AI-generated shower thought. Story 33. Gain control of time. Stretch that 10 minutes into my entire lifetime. Now, I have the power for my entire life. Story 34. I'm going back to when that first little fish decided climbing out of the sea was a good idea, and toe punting that little one right back in so it gets the idea to stay there. Story 35. Okay, so if your first thought is not making money at the casino by building maximum leverage, you are not being rational in my opinion, unless you would spend those 10 minutes saving someone you love from a deadly accident. Story 36. Back to 1954 for me. The period from the end of the Korean War to the Kennedy assassination was a golden age, even for the oppressed. People today have no idea at all. Story 37. I would definitely rewind time by 10 minutes, mainly to undo something dumb I just said or did. Instant regret eraser. Plus, it would be awesome for dodging awkward moments and pretending I always know the right thing to do. Story 38. Drop back to 2008 and buy a house and invest in Bitcoin so I could have a new set of problems to deal with. Story 39. I assume the person means you can only go forward or backward 10 minutes. If that is the case, I rewind the Kentucky Derby by 10 minutes and put my money on the winning horse. Story 40. I would use it right as I am about to put my foot in my mouth. Pause, actually think of a good response for once. then unpause and pretend I am just naturally witty. Story 41. I would rewind to fix that one foolish thing I said years ago that still keeps me up at night. Then fast forward through my next dental appointment because I do not want to deal with that. Story 42. Now we are talking about unlimited time going back, because if that is the case, I would travel back and live my life in the early years. I always say, in my personal opinion, we just need to go back to the Stone Age. There is too much, in my opinion, that is wrong with the world as we know it. Story 43. I would rewind time to a moment I regret, not to change it drastically, just to say the thing I did not say. Maybe a goodbye, maybe an I love you. 10 minutes is short, but sometimes that is all it takes to rewrite a lifetime of wondering. Story 44. Pause for 10 minutes, so I can get up without waking my household and have 10 minutes of quiet time for myself. Story 45. I went back and invested in Bitcoin when it was new. Then I continued with my business for about a decade. After that, I made some changes with my millions of dollars. Story 46. It's confusing what my power is exactly. Going back 10 minutes only is a more fun answer, so it's what I am going with. What I do is get my life savings, go to a horse race, see who wins at crazy odds, then roll back time and place my bet. Then I hope my actions do not alter the space-time continuum or that the race is not rigged. Story 47. So I get a stopwatch attached to me that counts down from 10, but I can do whatever I want in that window. I am going to fast forward to the next lottery drawing, memorize the numbers, then zip back to now. It should only take approximately 10 minutes for me to go and get back. Story 48. I would pause time for as long as it took me to see what everyone in the world was up to. Could take me years. Then I would go back to where I started, unpause time, and hug my mom because I have not seen her in a while, but she has not aged a second. Story 49. Boring, but I would save it for an emergency. If something happened to a loved one, I would rewind and save them. I would be tempted to use it to become wealthy, but I would struggle to live with myself if something terrible happened to my wife or daughter and I had wasted the opportunity to save them out of greed. Story 50. Memorize a short sequence of blackjack cards in a casino, go back in time, win 10 times in a row, and go home with a life-changing amount of money. Story 51. I would prepare all the numbers for the lottery for the past 10 years, then go back 10 years and live well. Story 52. I go to the track and wait until a horse with very high odds finally wins. I am talking about 50 to 1 or better. Before this, I already wiped out my 401,000 and brought it along with my life savings. I then rewind a couple of minutes and place my bet. Story 53. My 10 minutes or frozen 10 minutes. Because if you are in control of time, even 1 second is enough if you stretch it out for enough years. Story 54. Rewind to when I joined the army. This time, I will not chicken out and quit basic training with a medical excuse. My biggest regret is not serving my country, although I would be leaving my daughter, which is not something I want to do either. Story 55. I would pause time for 10 minutes, but the 10 minutes never pass, so reality ceases to exist forever. Story 56. Would love to go back and rewatch the beginning of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It is a shame this is only hypothetical. Story 57. If I can pause time for 10 minutes, does that count as the time I paused it? Could I pause it for 10 million years, go insane, and then unpause? Story 58. I would rewind to a moment I regret, not to change everything, just to say what I should have said. 10 minutes might not fix it all, but it could give me peace I have been chasing for years. Story 59. I retire in 13 days. I do not even care that I will miss the chance to win the lottery. I am blinking and making the next 13 days disappear. Story 60. I would go back to my first experience of self-pleasure. I have never experienced an orgasm like it since, and it is not for lack of trying. Story 61. Pause time, steal a nap, dodge a disaster, and whisper a stock tip to myself all before anyone blinks. Story 62. Wait, can you only move by 10 minutes? Or can you use the power for 10 minutes with unlimited range? Because those are very different things. Story 63. I would look up the most recent lottery jackpot numbers, then go back to the day before the numbers were drawn and buy a single lottery ticket with those numbers. Story 64. If I rewind to a random year like early to mid 2009, am I rewinding myself as well, or am I traveling back in time to 2009? It will not affect my answer, but the former would be preferable to the latter. Story 65. I would slow it down, but really slow, to the point that security cameras of a bank could not capture you, if you know what I mean. Story 66. At my wedding, when I am walking down the aisle to my husband, I want to stop time and live in that moment as long as I can. Our wedding is in a year. Story 67. Rewind, save John F. Kennedy, and put the United States of America and much of the rest of humanity back on a better timeline. Story 68. I would go back to 1970 and invest $1,000 in Altria, formerly known as Philip Morris. Set the account to reinvest all dividends. By 2025, that investment would be worth about $100 million after adjusting for inflation. This is the highest returning stock of all time. Story 69. I save it until I am in a life or death situation. If I am ever in a car crash, I will wish I did not waste my one-time reverse on the lottery numbers. Story 70. Nah, I enjoy life as it is and how it is supposed to be. 10 minutes does not make a difference if you are happy at all. Just saying. Story 71. Pause time and check the lottery numbers, then rewind and buy the winning ticket. Or pause during a poker game and see everyone's cards. Story 72. Rewind time to a point early enough to buy a ticket for that lottery. Story 73. Say things to people that I don't because of fear of judgment or anxiety. I would probably ask my crush out. If she says no, rewind. If yes, pause to celebrate. Story 74. 10 minutes ago, I was folding laundry, so rewinding is not an option. 10 minutes from now, I will likely still be on Reddit, so fast forwarding is not possible. I guess I could pause time? With that time, I don't know, probably run across the street and steal as many groceries as I can from Farm Boy. Either that or run down the street to the bank, but it is already a 10-minute walk, so I have to hope someone is already counting money when I get in the door. This question is kind of confusing, or I am misunderstanding it. Story 75. This is a bit unclear. I have control of time but can only perform one action once, and that lasts for 10 minutes. What? Story 76. If I gain control of time, I do not have 10 minutes. I have as much time as I want. It is existence's root exploit. Story 77. Needs some clarification. Is my control limited to only rewinding time by 10 minutes? If I can go further, does my age change, or am I the same person in a different time period? Story 78. I would do nothing. To be granted such immense power among everyone who could have had it and then waste it is the biggest power move in my opinion. Story 79. This feels like a trick question because I remember in Big Fish time stopped, but as soon as it started again, it had to go fast in order to catch up. Story 80. Hold on to the power, wanting to use it at the perfect time. Eventually, I will forget I have it and never use it. Story 81. Meet with the girl I always wished I asked out but never did and finally do it. I feel like I have known her for too long, and doing it now would ruin our friendship if she said no. But if I had the power to reverse time, I could do it, finally get my answer, and if she said no, I could go back in time before I asked without any lasting damage to our relationship. Story 82. This is quite interesting. I was just thinking about how I wish I could go back in time and save my older sister. She was stillborn, so by default, I am the oldest. As selfish as it is, I wish she could have been the oldest so I would not have to suffer. Story 83. I would loop it for eternity for everyone just to mess with humanity, and that would make my next millennium. Story 84. I would rewind to 10 minutes before my mother lost coherence before she passed. It has been a rough year and a half. Story 85. Rewind to 2015. That was the peak of humanity, I think. Hopefully, we will try not to make it the peak anymore and work to fix the issues that started during this era. Story 86. Pause time for about 2 years, rethink my life, travel the mountains, and buy a lottery ticket on the way back. Story 87. Stocks, all in 0 days to expiration call, and put options prior to a major market move likely caused by a significant announcement within that 10-minute or less time period. Story 88. Pause time in a crowded place and walk through. Look at everyone's faces when they think no one is watching. You would be surprised how many people wear masks that slip when they think they are unobserved. Story 89. I didn't read any comments. This is the first thing that popped into my mind. I will confess my love to my crush. And I will see her reaction. Then I will rewind time. Story 90. Ask out my friend I am crushing on. If they say no, I can rewind time so they do not remember it, and I do not have to feel as awkward as I would otherwise. Story 91. I would definitely pause if it stayed that way forever. I assume everyone would just freeze in place, and food at the grocery store would never go bad. I could still watch television and so on. I would pause forever. Story 92. Go back to before I tried to kill myself in front of my ex-girlfriend. Tell myself to stop, take a walk, and go to rehabilitation. Treatment was the only good thing that came from the breakup, at least on my end. If I could stop myself from traumatizing her and still get sober, my life would be a 10 out of 10 right now instead of a 7.5 out of 10. If you happen to read this, she is the only person I know in real life who knows my Reddit name. I am so sorry, Jessica. Story 93. Go back and see my dog Ralph. My father killed him when I was about 7. I was throwing chicken bones for him to munch on. Ralph choked, and my father was too drunk to notice. He didn't stop carrying me out of my bed in the middle of the night to show me the body. I would say goodbye or jam the chicken bones down a different throat. Story 94. I wish this was available to the captain of the Air India flight that crashed in Ahmedabad and killed hundreds of people. When he realized he was going to crash, he could have turned back, stayed at the airport, and had the flight checked properly. Story 95. You are acting like that is a sarcastic question, but let's be real, we have never seen a dinosaur with skin. So yes, how do we know? And seriously, what data do you have to suggest that the laws of physics have not changed in such a way that an undetectable quantum effect could mislabel dinosaurs? This might cause us to classify dinosaurs based on incorrect physical assumptions, allowing them to exist without skin or flesh, or even as four-dimensional beings. You cannot prove or disprove this. It is all conjecture based on insufficient evidence. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.